Usman from Oro. You've got Tokenized Gold. Welcome to the show. And you just came straight off the main stage for Breakpoint.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Honestly, it's a bit crazy. I think, it's quite exhilarating, obviously. And to think of the amount of progress that we've made as a company to be on main stage is pretty awesome to see as well. It's a great experience, obviously it's a privilege and we're super grateful, but it's awesome,
Yeah. What a year to launch a protocol with Tokenized Gold, right? Gold is just outperforming like crazy right now. Like, how has that been for you?
It's been amazing. The amount of support, it's awesome actually, because people always sort of see Solana as this Memecoin chain that people want to trade, maybe not serious assets. Oh, actually, all assets are serious, but assets like gold, which maybe not have the 2x or 3x upside. But what we've seen is some insane amount of adoption from the community and the insane amount of support from the community, which actually just reflects how quick Solana is changing as an ecosystem. And we're going to see so many more different assets come on chain, which will mean that there's, the community is going to lap them up. And we're a very community-born product. We're not necessarily, we haven't come in with some tier one institution. It's been very much ground up building. It's just great to see that level of traction and progress.
Yeah, it's great to see it all around. I mean, I feel like you've integrated with a bunch of different DeFi protocols, and it's been great to see. Like, how has that gone? Like, are you in talks with a lot of these different protocols, or how does that even work?
It's super interesting because you come to Breakpoint and you see this massive event, but the reality is that Solana is still very small, right? And so you have, and what I mean by small is, in terms of the number of DeFi protocols and stuff, it's not like, we're coming in, we're like, damn, we need to get integrated with 100 different protocols. It's actually like, hey, there are 8 to 10 relationships that we need to build. And everybody is welcoming, everybody will get on a call with you. And in fact, for a lot of the DeFi stuff, it's been a lot of inbound saying, hey man, we want to work with you guys. When are you guys getting ready for this stuff?
Oh, awesome.
Which is amazing to see. And I think that's truly representative of Solana as an ecosystem, because everybody is looking into the end user and is thinking what's going to be useful for the end user. And what do we, and every product and every company is thinking of that way. So if you're building something of value which will be useful for the end user, they really want to work with you. And so it's actually not as difficult to, you don't have to do an insane amount of BD. You just need to get to know people, build relationships the right way, and if you build something of value, they'll probably want to work with you.
Yeah.
But we still have a lot to get done, right? There's obviously different protocols have different thresholds of where you need to be as a company before they integrate. But it's all communicated, and you kind of then have an idea. Okay, this is what we need to do to maybe get integrated with this protocol and that protocol.
Yeah, gold is one of the oldest stores of value in the world that we know. Solana is an environment in which people have an average hold time of around 4 minutes. How do you make gold palatable to this kind of audience?
I think it's ultimately, it's about we've been doing a lot of research on this piece, and people want to make money. And so I think there's two pieces, right? One is you have to make gold into an asset which generates some income from them. Number two is I think the average user on Solana is also maturing. And as people mature, they're saying, hey, should we be holding some of our assets in an asset which is inflation hedged, right? And so we're seeing both of those things playing around in time. But our focus has always been that, hey, we just don't want it to be a boring gold asset that's being held in your wallet. It needs to be doing something for you, whether it's, you stake it for yield, whether you're depositing in a liquidity pool to earn yield from your LPing, whether you borrow against it. And, I think there was somebody told me that they borrowed against their gold at 0.1% on loop scale. We ran some incentives, and then you use that gold token and maybe deposit that USDC in a vault somewhere and earn yield on that. So that is, I think, is pretty interesting, because that's our whole purpose, which is how do we just go moving from just, hey, this is just a representation of value into something that's actually a lot more meaningful, a lot more value creative.
That's awesome. I tend to think that I agree with you that I think that the holders and the users on Solana are maturing, and I think that you're kind of seeing like a little bit of like the rejection of the meme coins, where they're going more towards like RWAs, tokenized gold, tokenized stocks, and the offerings are getting way better, right? So it's good to see.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's going to happen, right? If you think the world's coming on chain, then people are gonna do everything on chain. And
Yeah.
yes, that's gonna mean a bit of highly speculative assets. But if we look at all of us, right, it's not like 100% of our portfolio is highly speculative assets. Maybe there's a portion of that, and some people have a different risk appetite, and some people don't. But if your Solana wallet or your Solana, or your different wallets in Solana should be representative of your entire financial health, and every asset has its place there, you know.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, super. The exciting bit is that we can get all of these assets in one place.
Yeah.
And we can do so much more than with these assets in one place. And to me, that's the exciting bit, because it's like, you know, you're not just getting your stocks here, your gold there, your speculative assets here, you're lending there, you're borrowing there. It's all in one place.
Yeah, yeah, and you get to self-custody it in the way
Exactly.
that you want. You could use something like this Solflare card
Exactly.
as a hardware wallet, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Wow,
awesome.
this is super elegant, right?
Yeah, that's their new hardware
They
wallet.
announced this yesterday, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
every Breakpoint attendee gets one.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Where do you get it from?
You just go up to their booth over there.
No way.
Yeah,
Okay.
give it-
This is alpha.
Yeah. Quicks from their team was just on, and he showed up, and he like pulled one out of his shirt, and was like, here.
This is awesome. Oh my god. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you did mention yield on the gold. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Where does this yield come from, and how are users getting this?
So, you know, we just announced Stake Gold. Currently, you can already earn some yield on gold, and we plug this gold into real world lending mechanisms where jewelers and refiners use this gold for their working capital. They pay a really good yield on that, and we pass on majority of that to the users.
Okay.
However, you know, I think one of the beautiful things about crypto is yield generation on any asset, and this gives birth to different sources of yield. And so where we see Stake Gold evolving is into a representation of a basket of yield, right? Whether it's real world returns, which I think is great to have that, because it's more fixed, it's more permanent in a way. DeFi yield can vary a bit.
Yeah.
And then we start incorporating different sources of DeFi yield, whether it be LP yield, whether it be borrowing and arbing that. And so I'm super excited about that, because, you know, this is where I've always wanted that asset to be a source of different sources of yield, and to kind of bring forth the idea that this is only possible because of tokenization.
Yeah,
Right.
a better version of gold
Exactly.
is what you're offering,
Exactly,
right?
and it's always been that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the redemption process like?
Yeah.
Because someone told me that you were doing live redemptions here. I don't know if that was.
Yeah, we had like 10 requests in, and we wanted to, but I mean, I think people were just like probably got busy doing Breakpoint. But
Yeah.
if you wanted to, I can be like, hey, if you want to grab them tomorrow, we can redeem for that. But yeah, we do in-person redemptions in Dubai, and then we deliver to people's addresses. So we've done 2 postal redemptions, one to France and one to the US,
Cool.
which has been pretty awesome. But now what the other piece that I announced was the O Redemption Network. That our thesis with this always was, can we start to build local redemption networks? And that was super important for us. And so we will be going live with with 5 or 6 countries over the next month, where you should be able to physically redeem for your gold in these spaces. This is going to happen through our partners. We're partnering up with 2 different partners, and it's going to be exciting, because I think, again, it's like, how do we make sure that this sort of ledger representation or this digital representation is actually, if people want to redeem for it, they can.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. And what's the process like that? So you can just go on the site, you click redeem,
Yeah.
and it's probably a little bit more.
Yeah, it's we're going to be integrating with a partner. So let's say you decide, hey, I want to redeem for 1 gram of gold.
Yeah.
And you choose the US, then you will kind of be routed through the redemption options to our partner.
Yeah.
If it's Dubai, then similarly. And then if you want to decide, okay, I want to redeem for a coin, I want to redeem for a bar, maybe you want to redeem for jewelry.
Yeah.
Some partners won't be able to offer jewelry, some partners will. So it will depend on partner to partner. And we want to scale that up as our user base grows. I also don't believe in the idea that we want to go to like 30 different countries and set this up straight away. I think it's like, hey, let's see what the user breakdown is, let's see where the demand is, and use that.
Yeah.
Because my assumption would be, if you're buying tokenized gold, you want it to stay tokenized. I imagine the case in which someone would want to actually redeem that is quite rare.
It's interesting, because tokenized gold, I would say, fits really firmly in this digital gold category, and there is a lot of propensity for the user to save into digital gold over time and then eventually redeem. So that does happen, and I think we've seen in existing Web 2 equivalent base customer bases that to be almost 20-30% redemption a year in the asset base. So it's happening, but I think it's also depending on the user base and depending on, we're working on some really exciting stuff to how do we get to the marginal user of gold. And that is, I think, when we get to that user behavior is a bit different. Because when you look at, again, going back to the earlier question, right? The on-chain user is looking for more utility, more use cases with the gold, maybe earn with it, maybe loop with it, bunch of stuff. But the average marginal user is saving into gold as, hey, this is an asset that is going to hold value over time.
Yeah.
And so their behaviors may be earning a bit of income on it, but they're not necessarily going to be doing a bunch of activity with it, maybe just holding it. But what a lot of people like to do is, hey, I've got a bit of gold, I've accumulated over the span of a year, maybe let me go and buy some jewelry with it, right? So you want to be able to give that optionality. I agree. It'll be interesting to see how that user behavior develops, and maybe this is not something you just take on, But I do think I like the idea that this is redeemable if you wanted it to be.
Yeah. And I have a question about custody. Is that all done primarily based through Orange? You guys have a vault that's set somewhere in Dubai where you manage all that?
So we actually don't do the custody. We don't have the custody infrastructure ourselves, and I think it's a very sort of intentional approach to work with third-party custody providers whose bread and butter this is, right? I'm not asking users to trust Oro that we're doing the custody well. It's like, hey, we're working with Brinks, which is one of the largest custody providers in the world. And we have a vault with them, and that gold sits in that vault. And that's great because this is Brinks' bread and butter. They will do this well. They know exactly how to run this. They just don't do this for us. They do this for billions of dollars of gold. And so we've just plugged into that system, and we're just like, hey, Brinks, please custody this for us. And, please coordinate with our third-party proof of reserves auditor to confirm on a monthly basis that this gold is there and it's being custodied.
If I want to play devil's advocate here, does this add a lot of points of friction and a lot of touch points and intermediaries to the process?
I think it's, the reality is that you can kind of, decide as a company, as a startup, as an issuer, that you build all of these building blocks by yourself. The reality is that all of these building blocks already exist. And so a large part of what we're building now is maybe connecting these different building blocks on new rails and new primitives. And you look at kind of Tether and Circles, and they're custodying their T-bills with different financial institutions as well, right? So I don't think it's like Tether or Circle decided that, hey, we're gonna actually, Pax Gold and Tether Gold, two of the biggest gold tokens out there, they're custody with Brinks as well. Nobody's gonna go out and build vaults themselves. It's like, hey, let's use the existing market standards because they're done well, right?
Yeah.
The reality is that I think the number that was given to me, there's $8 trillion of gold that gets stored with vaults globally. This is already something that's very market standard, gets done in a really, really good way. So how about we just tap into that, and it just makes sure that, also I think there's a bit of like the user trust. If I told the user that I'm custodying it in my vault, the user would be like, okay, what's the guarantee that here's a protocol and I'm going to use it? But if it's like, hey, we're actually using third-party service providers, which are very credible and relevant, that gives them comfort, I think.
Yeah. So it's almost like a decentralization of trust rather than
Exactly.
all the
Exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I guess then the way that they're custodying, it doesn't matter where they're custodying. It's not like all in one location. It could be in multiple.
I mean, ideally, you want it to be in tier 1 jurisdictions. You wouldn't want it to be in a jurisdiction where maybe there's a lot of economic and political upheaval. Because the other important piece about a tokenized gold asset, or any tokenized asset, is the ability to be able to settle it or liquidate it. If there's, let's say tomorrow everybody decides to redeem for the asset, then hey, I need to be able to redeem it for physically. And so it's important for us to base ourselves in key supply centers in the world versus just, hey, one supply center. But I agree. I think over time you'd want to custody in different locations, in different cities, in different hubs.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, anything else you wanted to go over on custody?
No, that's enough for custody. So obviously gold's had an incredible year.
Yeah.
Silver is starting to kind of follow that bit. Does that mean that we're going to have the silver counterparts to Oro Gold?
This is the question I've probably been asked the most in the past few weeks.
Yeah, I imagine.
There's a lot of interest. I think our underlying platform allows us to issue as many as tokens out there, which is perfect. But I do think it's about making sure that the existing playbook that we're carrying out is carried really well. Gold has certain behaviors and shared sort of, I would say, features which don't necessarily carry well over to silver, right? Maybe we'll do it, and I think there's a bunch of demand for it. I also look at kind of building Oro as a multi-year, decade project, right? Yeah. And so maybe we don't need to do in the next 6 months. If we believe in the secular trends of why we're holding gold, silver will benefit from some of the upside of gold even going forward. So maybe we can do this in 6 months' time. But let's see. We'd want to do it. We've spoken about silver to people. We've had inbound about rare earth metals and whatnot. So I'm excited to do kind of a bunch of stuff, but focusing on gold for now.
Yeah, it's about beginning the basics.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing that we spoke about before was that you said your family's been in the gold business for over 100 years.
Yeah.
What do they think about how the success of your business has gone? Like, what do they think about crypto in general?
Honestly, I think it's interesting because generally people still don't understand crypto really well. In India, it's interesting because we're sitting in this world and we get it really well, but most of the people still don't.
Yeah.
So I think there's still a learning education. They see this as the black box, and then it's like, okay, what are you doing in this space? I think everyone's super happy, super supportive. Still, most people don't understand what we're doing, even though they're in the gold industry. It's like, okay, what is this doing? Why are you doing this? But I think they're starting to understand that, hey, this is. Once they see the value, and once it's like really obvious to show them, hey, this is the app, and this is how it looks like, then they're like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
So once they start seeing the actual applications, that's when it makes they really understand it way more.
Yeah, and the way that you set up your app, it's very user friendly, like very straightforward on what you're doing too, right? So it might not be like the crypto native that's going to be going there all the time, right? They don't need to be in order to interface with it, right?
Exactly. And that's the plan, right? We want to be able to build this into an experience where people are just buying digital gold. Shouldn't matter if it's tokenized or not. It's this is the best form of digital gold out there, and it allows you to do so much more.
I think we should actually steer away, like collectively move past this. We want to build for crypto native users.
Build for users.
Yeah, we want to build for a much wider TAM, and that's how we actually continue to grow the space rather than marketing within ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like the user interfaces for everything is getting to the point where, like, if you wanted to buy gold on chain, you could get to it, right? Like, it's not like as hard as it used to be to get there, right? Like, I don't know. At least that's my perspective.
You can even do like so many apps, right? Helios Orb now, it's like a new block explorer, right? So I agree. I think, and I see actually like a lot of the more successful applications are going to be building experiences. Either you're building for a very crypto native audience, and that's the traders and the speculators, and then I think all the other products which are stablecoin related or stablecoin adjacent are going to be built on surfaces which have very clean UIs and which can abstract away a lot of the complexity that a user probably faces when maybe uses a very crypto native product.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. So what does Solana offer an RWA issuer that other chains might not? Why is Solana the best place to look at RWAs in 2026?
Honestly, I think for me, like Solana is it's about a few things. And actually, I was asked this question on a panel a few days ago. I think I don't want to repeat the stuff that everyone talks about. It's cheap, it's quick, it's fast.
This is stuff we know.
This is stuff we know, and I think the most important thing about Solana is that if you think of blockchain to cities and countries, it is the most thriving country that's out there. In a way, it's like I have a friend who calls it the United States of crypto. And it's a big economy. And if it's a big economy, you want to open your business in a big economy. That's the reality, right? And you want to open in a place where it's thriving. There's people, and if you have a shop on the street, they'll come to your shop. If there's nobody on the street, nobody's going to come to the shop anyway. So it's I think that's like the benefit of Solana, that it's just a very thriving ecosystem of users and people who just generally want to try out different things, and that really helps the business. I think the second piece is more about the fact that it is the culture of the chain, which is, I think, builders and founders and everybody in the ecosystem who's contributing to it is really there to push the chain forward and also make you support your business. And I think that's awesome to see, because we can be in a very PvP environment where people are competing with each other, and sure, business owners should be competing for the user. But to start off and to get that and I speak from experience, we got an insane amount of level of support and help from community, founders, builders. I only entered Solana a year and a half ago. And a year and a half into kind of at this moment be on Breakpoint stage. It's truly it just shows that it's all about and I didn't get there myself, right? And we didn't build this ourselves. It was all about this amazing community that supported me in every single step of the way. And so to me, that's something that can be replicated, because any maybe other chain is going to be like, oh, we're faster, but this you can't replicate. This is just so inherent to the culture of this economy, of this chain.
It's remarkable that actually the builder culture has become a defensible moat for Solana, because obviously we know it's fast, it's cheap, it's all those things, but other chains are fast and cheap as well.
Exactly.
And Solana still attracts this builder energy, this competitive spirit. That's kind of an integral part of what has made Solana so great this year.
Exactly. And I think it's cool, right? Because when you hear it through some of the announcements that have come through the past 2 days, and I'm like, okay, great. I need to be speaking to these 10 teams. So it's like, people are building such cool stuff that you're like, okay, this could be interesting for me. This could be interesting for me. And I think that makes it's like a compounding effect because everybody's just building cool stuff, and maybe some of the stuff doesn't land, right? But that's also part of building.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we are coming up on time here. Very excited about what you're building on Oro. You guys have anything coming out for 2026 or anything else?
Yeah, we've got some amazing announcements. Think of Oro as transforming into a selection of different assets.
Awesome.
So we've got gold and stay gold, maybe one or two more assets coming upwards. Think of us building interesting piping to, enable more users to get digital gold access. So lots coming up. I think next year is a big year for us, and hope to be here next year again, and to, maybe we can talk more about the journey then. In 2 years in.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Once again, this is Usman from Oro, and really appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.